Volume 8 Part 2. Just as Rizel is about to leave, Gotaro stands in his way, stating that Rizel isn't going anywhere. Gotaro comments that he doesn't know who Rizel is, but it's not up to him to decide whether he gets to leave this place or not. Rizel asks him to step aside. Gotaro refuses, asking if he's stupid and whether he thinks that he'll step aside, just because Rizel asks him to. Muzaka suggests that Gotaro let Rizel be on his way. Gotaro shouts for Muzaka to shut up and refuses to take orders from a traitor. Muzaka tells him it's advice not an order, but he can think whatever he wants, before adding that he shouldn't let himself get distracted when he has an opponent like Rizel in front of him. Gotaro questions what he's murmuring about, when he's suddenly hit with a powerful energy. Gotaro is shocked and scared as Rizel releases his aura. The other werewolves are shocked at the level of Rizel's power, as the ground begins to shake. Gotaro is pushed back by the resulting explosion. Muzaka wonders why Rizel is forcing himself to use his powers to such an extent. Gotaro is left sitting on the ground coughing and spluttering. Uzur wonders if Rizel's overwhelming power means he's the Noblesse. Rizel takes his leave. Muzaka chides the warriors, stating that's why he told them to let Rizel go, and they should have listened to him, but it doesn't matter now, and asks if they'd like to get started with their business. Rizel, having left the scene, wipes blood from his mouth, stating Igni's name aloud. Rizel is on his way to look for M21 when he reaches a wooded area. As he's moving through the forest, a number of ofuda on the trees start glowing. The ofuda cause a large explosion. Rizel escapes the blast unscathed. Zyga appears before him, disappointed that he's not Muzaka. Rizel asks him to step aside. Zyga laughs, stating he'll do as he asks, only after killing him. A voice from above chides him for daring to speak to the Noblesse in such a manner. Zyga senses an attack and uses his power to protect himself and his companions. He asks the identities of the attackers, as Raskria and K-Ru make their entrance. Rizel is surprised to see K and Raskria. Raskria asks why he's in the werewolves' territory before retracting her question, stating he must have a good reason for being there. Baham and Gaura, unaware of the identities of the nobles before them, make insulting comments before being reprimanded by Zyga. Zyga tells them to watch their words, since even though they're enemies, they're not people they should take lightly. Zyga then proceeds to welcome the Lord of the Nobles and the Noblesse, introducing himself as a werewolf warrior named Zyga and apologizing for his rude behavior earlier. Baham and Gaura are shocked to learn of the identities of the nobles. Zyga asks why they've come to their territory. Raskria tells Rizel they can't talk given the current circumstances and asks him to go on ahead, while she handles matters here. Baham and Gaura object to this, stating no matter who they are, they're not going to let them act however they please. Zyga orders the two of them to step aside and let Rizel through. He thinks that it'd be easier to take them on separately than all together. Raskria asks Rizel why he isn't leaving. Rizel looks at her, before taking off, to resume his journey. Rosaria has summoned her soul weapon and is reciting a spell to gather energy for her ultimate attack. After gathering enough energy, an eye opens in the sky above Maduk's castle. She unleashes the power of her attack on the castle below, with the shockwave being felt at Raskria's location. Rizel notices the attack, on his way to rescue M21. Rizel is on his way to find M21, when he senses something that makes him stop, mid-flight. He turns and looks back, wondering if Frankenstein is alright. Sensing Frankenstein's distress at being absorbed by the dark spear, Rizel communicates with him telepathically. Frankenstein thinks he's imagining it first, but realizes that it is indeed his master's voice. Rizel asks if he can continue to rely on Frankenstein, that he went ahead to look for M21 because he thought he could trust him, but he's in a dangerous situation right now. He asks Frankenstein if he can continue to trust him and go on ahead. Frankenstein comes to his senses and tells his master that he can, and manages to escape from the dark spear realm, apologizing to his master for making him worry. Rizel states that he'll trust him as always and continues to look for M21. Ignis is sitting in her lab, preparing to leave. She states, judging from the noises outside, they must really be going at it, and it's such a shame that she has to leave sooner than expected, since there was more data she could have obtained here. She suddenly flinches and turns to see Rizel enter the lab. Rizel glares at her. Ignis turns to face Rizel and asks if he's here because the werewolves attacked Lacedonia recently or if he's come here to get her. She grits her teeth, asking if he really came all this way to get her. Ignis flinches as Rizel speaks her name and asks her for the location of the human she was experimenting on. Ignis is speechless and wonders if he's talking about the human who's turning into a werewolf. Ignis asks why he's asking her about that human. Rizel instead tells her to answer his question. Ignis states that Rizel came all the way to werewolf territory to find one human, adding it's ridiculous. She begins laughing and states he's really remarkable. If he'd shown that much interest in her father, he wouldn't have had to go into eternal sleep like that. Rizel tells her that Roktiz gave up everything in order to protect her. Ignis gets angry, asking if Rizel is trying to say that her father betrayed him and the nobles because of her. Ignis shouts if she asked him to sacrifice himself for her, that she never asked for such a thing and it was all his own decision, instead saying Rizel is the one who's responsible for all of this, not her. She tells Rizel that if he'd given the slightest bit of attention to her father, who followed and respected him for a long time, that if he'd given her father even a fraction of the attention he gives to those humans, her father wouldn't have made such a decision. Rather, for his sake, he would have abandoned her as well. Ignis tells Rizel it's all his fault for making her father to make such a decision. Ignis calls for Titan. The floor warps and bulges, as Ignis states this is a gift for Rizel. A giant blue creature emerges from the ground. Ignis informs Rizel a lot of werewolves went into creating him, and even though his power is too great to control, she's sure he'll be able to give Rizel the gift of eternal sleep. The creature roars, destroying the lab and the surrounding area. Ignis is shocked at Titan's display of power. She realizes this is good and starts complimenting him. She orders Titan to give Rizel the gift of death. Rizel looks on as Titan launches an attack, turning the ground into rubble. Rizel shields himself from the attack and is surprised when Titan launches an energy beam at him. Rizel manages to block the beam, but as Titan increases the power of the beam, blood starts to drip from Rizel's mouth. Ignis is surprised to see the blood, as Titan attack Rizel from above. Rizel summons his blood field and manages to destroy Titan's arm. Titan screams and regenerates his arm instantaneously, and once again moves to attack Rizel. Rizel uses his power to destroy both of Titan's arms, causing the monster to roar in pain. Rizel attempts to push the creature back, however Titan continues to move forward, attacking Rizel with his head, while his arms regenerate. Rizel uses a blood barrier to protect himself, only for Titan to tear the barrier apart with his newly regenerated limbs. Rizel is shocked at the creature's strength, as Titan fires an energy beam at an unprotected Rizel, completely destroying the barrier. Ignis ridicules Rizel, saying he used to be the most glorious of nobles, but now looking at his pitiful state he must already have been weak before coming to the land of the werewolves. Ignis asks why he would attempt something so reckless, just to save one human. In a flashback, M21 recalls the time Rizel asked Frankenstein if they were family. Rizel explains the kids at school told him about family, and although they're not blood relatives he understands what family means. Rizel has released his blood wing and prepares to face Titan once more as blood drips from his eyes. Ignis is shocked to see Rizel with only one blood wing and is saddened to see him in such bad shape, and having spent a long time beholding and loving him, she doesn't want to see him in that state, so tells him to just die. Titan attacks Rizel and Rizel blocks the attack. Rizel immobilizes the creature by using mind control, before attacking him with a blood field. Titan is damaged and broken after the attack, but his healing ability counters all the damage he sustained in the attack, almost instantly. Rizel uses a much more powerful blood field, encasing the creature inside it. Ignis thinks it can't end like this, since she created Titan with the data she gathered from her experiments on nobles, humans and werewolves, making him the most powerful creature in existence. Titan transforms, destroying the blood field, and launches a powerful attack against Rizel, which is felt by everyone in werewolf territory. Rizel is unable to inflict any serious damage to Titan. Ignis tells him that she intends to release Titan in the human world, starting with where he lives, and watch those dear to him die a dreadful death. This provokes Rizel to unleash more power and attack Ignis. Titan tries to punch Rizel from behind but is pushed back as Rizel counterattacks. The monster takes flight and lets out several energy beams that alarm Rizel and Ignis. After being placed in the range of attack, Ignis concludes that a rushed specimen cannot be controlled and decides to leave before Titan mistakes her for an enemy. She attacks Rizel with her soul weapon as a parting gift. Rizel, who is blocking a concentrated beam, gets stabbed and loses his concentration. His force field shatters and an explosion occurs as the energy beam strikes.